So good to have you guys here today. I wanted to have a chat with you guys today about intuition and what it means to have intuition and how having good intuition actually adds to your repertoire of gifts, spiritual gifts, but it also helps you to navigate your way through life in a way that is more fulfilling, and you can create more abundance and you can create a happier outcome for yourself based on having a stronger intuition. Now, one thing that I want to make very clear is that your intuition is something that is a response to something you're already tapped into. So say for example, you're deciding if you want to move to like Mexico or Cuba, right? Your intuition could feel like a pull towards Mexico, even though maybe logically it would make more sense for you to go to Cuba. And when you feel that pull towards something and you follow it, you may discover something about yourself or about the world or about your future that was waiting for you that you wouldn't have actually discovered had you followed your logical reasoning. But the thing about intuition is that it'll always give you something based on what you're already tapped into. So I'm going to give you guys a couple examples here, okay? So you're driving around a city and you're with a friend and you're looking for a good restaurant to eat. And you don't necessarily know what you want to eat, but you definitely know that you want to eat something that's Asian, for example. And so you're navigating your way through all the different reviews on Google, on Yelp about what are the best Asian cuisines around me. And one just kind of pops up off the screen a little bit more than the other ones. So you get to follow your intuition towards that restaurant. Now, maybe while you're driving to that restaurant, your GPS is telling you to go a certain direction. And when the GPS tells you to go to that direction, you just trust that that's where the GPS is guiding you towards, and that's where you're going to end up. If your intuition is tapped into your navigational system and there's an accident or there's something that your GPS isn't picking up on that you're sensing, you may actually get internally guided to turn right instead of turning left, for example, when the GPS says to turn left. Now, that is navigational intuition. Following your restaurant preference it's like a food intuition. It's a restaurant intuition. Knowing who to hang out with and knowing which people to allow in your life, that's a relational intuition. Knowing what kind of a career to enter into is a career-based intuition. And knowing what foods your body needs and requires for you to get pure nourishment from those foods is a more food-based or body-based intuition. So as you can see, there are so many different types of ways in which your intuition can play into your everyday life. And my ultimate goal personally is to bring intuition into my awareness around making better decisions in relationships, creating workout plans that actually feel better for my body, connecting with foods that I might not even know what they are, but recognizing that my body needs them and actually allowing myself to consume those foods despite whatever fears I have around that. It could involve traveling at a more distance, going further out into the world and trusting that my intuition will guide me to the right places so I don't get lost, so I don't get stuck in tricky situations. So those are the ways in which I would like for my intuition to be highlighted in my life. And what I find is that the more intuitive that I become, the more responsibility I also have. Because when you sense something or when you know something, what ends up happening, especially when it comes to relationships, so say somebody's telling you something, they're saying, oh yeah, my mom's not coming over for Christmas, and that's okay, like I'm cool with it. But your intuition's telling you like, okay, that is actually not true. This person's not cool with their mom not coming home for Christmas. Then you have to ask yourself, how much do I want to get involved with this inner knowing? I mean, if it's a close friend and you feel like you want to open up the box of how is your friend really feeling, you can say, are you sure you're not feeling, you're feeling okay about it? Because I can sense that maybe you're not feeling okay about it. And that will open up a whole other chapter and a whole other rabbit hole of conversation. Now, say you're talking to somebody that you recently met and you don't want to open that box. So you have a sense intuitively that that individual is having a hard time with the fact that their mom's not coming home for Christmas, but you don't really want to open that door because you don't know this person well. Maybe you don't want to be put in a position where this person feels vulnerable. Maybe maybe you're in a rush to go somewhere and you don't want to, get involved in a long-winded conversation about how someone's feeling that you just met. So you end up just saying, okay, I acknowledge you, intuition. Thanks for letting me know, but that's actually not relevant to my current circumstance. So based on everything that I've shared so far, what I'm realizing is that there's applicable and relevant intuition, and then there's inapplicable and irrelevant intuition. And so I'm looking to fine tune my intuition in a place where it's always applicable and always relevant. If I can always sense what someone is saying underneath their words, it's going to take up more resources for me to pay attention to those things, and it's perhaps going to feel so overwhelming that I won't be able to pay attention to myself. However, if I'm very clear with who I want to open my intuition up with and where I don't want to open my intuition up with, then I can navigate my intuition in such a way where it's serving a greater purpose. It's honoring my value system. It's honoring where I am in my life, and it's honoring what my needs are and also how I want to give back to the world. So your intuition can put you very easily in a place where you may have to just nod your head and just be okay with whoever is sharing something that you may feel might be off if you don't want to go down that place. On the flip side, if you're in a deep friendship and someone is claiming a certain feeling or a certain way of expressing themselves that doesn't feel authentic and your intuition is going off like crazy, you really have to navigate whether or not it's appropriate to share what your intuitive feelings are. You don't always have to share what you're intuitively feeling. You can just know that within yourself. Someone says, this happens to me often where someone's like, oh, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And like right away, I'll be like, they'll be here in half an hour. I got an extra 10 minutes. And I don't need to say that. I just can know that, right? Or someone might say to you, hey, I really want to hang out with you. I want to catch up and see how you're doing. But really deep down, you're like, no, this person just needs a hug, And sometimes it's a bit challenging having these gifts because you might find that you're not really sure when to share what you can sense and when not to share what you can sense. And I haven't quite figured this out myself in my world and how it actually relates to the way that I want to operate my life. But what I can say is that don't be fake. Don't pretend, especially to someone who you're close with, someone who's in your inner circle. Don't act as if everything is okay if that person's pretending everything's okay when you know that it's not okay. Because what ends up happening is that it becomes like a series of perpetual and layered lies that keep adding up. And it's not that that person is intentionally lying to you per se, but it could be that that person's just completely unaware of themselves and they themselves are just putting on some kind of show or face or mask because they don't want to be seen in a certain light, or they don't want to be made to feel vulnerable, or they feel that if they were to reveal that about themselves, then XYZ would happen, and it's based on a fear. So I think this is really important because especially the coaches out there who are watching, if you're a coach, you don't have to coach your friends through everything. You don't have to be a coach to your friends. In fact, you're not really a friend if you're always coaching your friends. I'm just going to be straight up. That's not a friend because that's not a real authentic relationship when you're always giving your advice and helping people to see themselves better in your friendships. That is a coaching relationship where you would have somebody that you're actually coaching and they're paying you for that, or there's some kind of value exchange there. But in a friendship, coaching becomes very toxic. At least I've seen that in my experience and in the experience of the people that I've known who are also coaches. So to intuitively know when someone's not quite being authentic, I think the best thing to do is to just speak up and to say, hey, like, you're saying this, but I'm sensing this from you. What's really going on here? Just so we're on the same page. I don't need to coach you through it. I don't need to help you through this. I'm just sensing this and you're telling me this. Can we just get this straight? And that may cause a lot of triggers in your life with people. And I know for me it has. And this is why sometimes I still struggle when people are like, hey, I want to meet you for a coffee. And it's like, you just kind of need something from me and you're not admitting it. So I tend to back away from those types of communications nowadays. And I don't get involved with that because I just don't have time for that. Not that I don't love to give and to be generous, but I like to do it on my own terms in my own way without having someone else try to manipulate me into that. So I can use my intuition for that. But when it comes to really honoring yourself, you do want to make sure that first and foremost, you're using your intuition in a wise, relevant, and applicable way. So you're not just picking up on all kinds of irrelevant information that's just going to get you all wound up over things that are totally not even relevant to your everyday life. They're not relevant to your value system. They're not relevant to the way in which you operate. They have nothing to do with what's important to you, and they just end up taking you into darker places that are just you trying to distract yourself. And so a lot of people that develop their intuition, what I've noticed is that they just use it as a way to keep tuning into things unnecessarily. And when you keep tuning into things unnecessarily, you eventually can tune out of yourself because you're giving so much of your attention and your sixth sense focus to external things. So what I like to say is bring your intuition back to self. And what is your intuition telling you about your life? And this is the best way to use your intuition, in my personal opinion, is to access your intuition for your personal life. So rather than get involved in what everyone else around you is doing and not doing, and whether it's feeling aligned or not, really stick with yourself and say, well, what is it that my intuition is telling me to eat? What is it that my intuition is telling me to say in this conversation? What is my intuition telling me about how to move forward in this negotiation, or in this court case, or in this online debate, or how to move my business forward, or who to hire, or whether or not to interact with this friends group, or whether or not to attend this party, or whether or not to consume this meal, or whether or not to travel to this city. These are all ways in which you can have your intuition work for you rather than against you. So you're not wasting your intuitive knowledge and intuitive gifts on things that are not relevant to you. And so my intention for sharing this is that for those of you guys who are working on your third eye and who are working on your intuitive sense of being able to see things and sense things, you are going to see there are many, 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 many things out there that claim to be true that are just absolutely not true. And when this happens, it can be very devastating or shocking to see that you've been living this lie, in a sense, where everything around you thought was a certain way, and then you start to realize that it's not. And it can be very challenging, especially if the people around you still believe those lies, because their intuitions haven't actually been activated yet. And so what I want to suggest is, don't worry about those things. Worry about yourself. Put all of your energy back to self as often and as many times a day as possible. How am I feeling, and what's my intuition telling me right now? The better you feel, the more in alignment you are, the more your intuition will keep saying to you, you're on the right path, keep going. You're on the right path, keep going. So for example, even with me filming a YouTube video, it's like, of course there's fears and all kinds of potential insecurities that want to show up. And so I can say, okay, well, yeah, it's a little scary and I'm putting myself out there, but my intuition's like, and you're doing a great job, keep going, right? And it's like, which voice do I listen to? And so the intuition is it's a beautiful guide, because as soon as I follow it, I automatically feel like I'm doing something great, even if it scares me. So for those of you guys out there who are practicing on refining your intuition, or just even activating it for the first time, or maybe you've been on this path for a very long time and you're feeling like, oh, I know too much, this is my advice to you, is to just keep your intuition in a relevant and an applicable space where you can constantly use it to help you rather than hinder you in life, because everything in life is either good or bad, light or dark. It can guide you forward or it can pull you back. It's how you use it, right? It's like a carrot is a great vegetable, but it can be thrown at someone's head and hurt somebody. So we really want to be very mindful about the tools that we have and the tools that we use, so we can live a life that is much, much, much more fulfilling and gratifying than the one we have now. And that's the beauty of intuition, is when you can actually refine it and utilize it in an applicable and relevant way, you will find that your life will get so much easier, and you will avoid troubles that you'll look back and be like, oh, I didn't take that flight and that flight crashed, or I didn't go to that party and like someone got stabbed, or there could be so many things that you just intuitively know to do or not to do, and you look back and you realize that you were saved from all kinds of harm. So it's a beautiful, beautiful gift to have. It'll definitely get you it'll get your life flowing in a much easier way, and you're in charge of where you put your intuition's attention. So just remember that. Use your attention to guide your intuition, so that it's not just completely taking over your life and throwing you in all kinds of inappropriate directions that you end up regretting you had intuition in the first place. So thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your morning, your evening, wherever you are. I love you guys so much, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.